You found it, girl. You found it. That's what I can tell you. We got a lot of people that are in that same business. Especially in their bag houses. Is this inside of a bag house? Is this inside of a bag house?
What we do?
No, your customer that's looking to do this indoor capacity to get this regular.
Oh, no, this is like oil and gas pipes. Like I'll do colonials or I'll do completions, flowback, it's oil and gas. It's, in the field. And they just need to figure out how to quantify improvement.
Okay. Well, listen up, and you're gonna like what you hear, because we do this kind of stuff.
It sounds
Yeah. Well, hello, I'm Sean Dolan, and I'm with Virtual Technologies, and we're here to wow you guys about how we can do digital opacity. And everybody's had this old iPad opacity thing for years and years and years. We've been sending people out to smoke school since the 70s, right? And so I got into this. I was at Hill Air Force Base, and I was working on a different project about troop training. So I had to learn about smoke. So they sent me down to the smoke school in Salt Lake City. I went down to smoke school, and I said, you gotta be kidding me. This is not how we regulate visible emissions in the United States. That's how we do it. It's the only way we do it. So this is how it's gotta be done. And I said, right then and there, I'm gonna make it, I'm gonna buy me a digital camera, and I'm gonna make it work. So that was 2002. 2009, we came up with an ASTM standard for using digital cameras to manage opacity. So what you're going to hear about here is nowadays you don't have to go to smoke school anymore. You can use a camera, send in your pictures, and get your opacities near real time. And so this is one of our contracts with monitoring the national parks. This is kind of bread and butter, keeps us in business. And so this deals with visibility. So what you see over here is a controlled burn, the white smoke that's going on. This is looking from the south rim of the Grand Canyon to the north rim. And then this black smoke that you see over here is an RV on fire on the north rim parking lot. And so these cameras are all in all the Class 1 areas throughout the United States. They do visibility. So anytime visibility gets impacted in one of our Class 1 areas, then they do a root cause analysis and they trace it back to wherever they can find the source and they shut down the source. So you're also going to see some pictures of a place called Malibu Generating Station. When I do the live demonstration here, that was actually shut down because of its pollution going into the Grand Canyon. So they shut it down, demolished the whole place, and replaced it with a giant solar array on the Malibu Indian Reservation. It doesn't put out the power that Malibu Generating Station used to, but it puts out a lot of use. It really does. So talk a little bit more about the pathway to getting here. I saw in our previous presentation, how many folks were in that, where they talked about a program called the Small Business Innovative Research Program, which is what funded these first three monkeys, if you will, as we move them along our way. And so these monkeys were back in the days of digital cameras that used floppy disk inside of them, right? And then they were, back in the days when you had a flash drive with 1 gigabyte of data on it, and you thought you were a hero. So at any rate, this is, a while back, and so not only did the computers get better from here to here to here, but when we started the Virginia trials, this was all done on a laptop computer with a digital camera. The instructor was supposed to take a laptop computer out to the field, put in all the field information, take the camera, and that was going to load up all the pictures, and then they do the analysis in the field, and then be able to generate another 9 reports. The bottom line of that study was that's too much work for the inspector in the field, and not going to do it, and they're going to rebel against it. So we said, all right, we're not doing that, so we went to a different software as a service model. So what we did is we said, you guys don't have to do the analysis in the field. All you got to do is just capture the picture. You capture the picture, send them out, and we'll do the analysis and send back the results. So it's just like a laboratory or any other sample where you send it out to the lab, you get it back. So we did automated chain custody and blah, 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 blah. And that's essentially the product that we sell today, is the product that came out of the ASTM dust studies, which happened in here, and the California trials. And fortunate for us, we got Randy here with us. She was actually an intern at Northern Arizona University back in the day, and was one of the people that actually did the California trials. And essentially what we did was we hired 4 interns and sent them to the smoke school program in California researching for it all summer long. So they traveled with the car people to all of the various different sites, and they participated in those smoke schools. They using cameras and their eyes to stay certified, and all the other people in the crowd only certifying their eyes. And you're going to see some stats that she'll brief about that, so I won't steal her thunder at this particular moment. But that is how we came up with the hard comparisons as to how much better or worse is docs than humans. And obviously I wouldn't say more worse, it wasn't better, so, yeah. So we're going to move on. We were just about to release this product that we call Flare Watch, that you're going to hear about here in a little bit, back in 2020. And we were working diligently on getting Flare Watch out the door. And I lost my primary developer to that COVID. And so she died in May of 2020, and as a result of that, I spent the last 8 months extracting information from the dead body. It's not easy to do. When you go through all the old archives and all this stuff and find all this stuff. So now I finally got my development team back up. So Linda was replaced by 3 other people, and now we're back up and running again, and we've got Flare Watch going out the door probably in another 6 months. So you guys will hear more about that as we go along. But she was my best developer, my longest term developer, and started with me back in 2002, and it was a great loss, but what happened? Things going on. So you saw the monkeys. This is the, if you download this presentation, these are the details of every one of those monkeys and what occurred when they were going along. But basically, we started off with this thing called PRE 008, and when we published that on the EPA Technology Transfer Network, we got sued immediately by the electric car companies and a company called EPA Research. They said, no, we can't have that. You got to have a consensus standard before you can even approach the EPA standard. And this is all learning to me, right? I'm going through it, just kind of falling on my way, and I said, well, I guess that's what we got to do. That's what we got to do. So I assembled an ASTM committee, and we got everybody going, and the electric power stacked the committee with everybody that hated it, and the cement industry stacked the committee with all the people who hated it worse than the power people did. But fortunate for me, the regulators stacked the committee with people who said, no, the nine is bullshit, and we got to come up with a better way of doing this. The bottom line is, by 2000, we started that in 2005. 2009, we actually got the standard promulgated. And we probably D75-2009, and the only way I could get it promulgated was to cut a deal with EPRI that says that we would exempt any stack greater than 7 feet diameter. And the reason for that was because we had data from Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. We did this in conjunction with the Air Force. A stack that was 6'8", but since we had only tested a stack that was 6'8", it was only going to be valid for stacks that were 6'8". So we put the 7-foot limit in there, we promulgated the thing, and then we did a whole other study to be able to get rid of that 7-foot limit by doing stacks that were 100 feet, 200 feet, the biggest diameter ones we could find. And then once we promulgated that, then we got the alternative standard 082 published, which is a broadly applicable standard that can be used in lieu of method 9, keywords, for all of 40 CFR 60, 61, and 63. Anything 60, 61, or 63, all subparts, all subsections that calls out the use to quantification of opacity or visible emissions. This product can be used for supposedly without changing your permits, but the truth of that is it's the federal permits that you don't have to change. State permits you still got to ask for, you still got to change, unless you're in the state of Arizona where it's written in the SIP and you can use it. So. I got a number of other states that are getting it into their SIPs, but the only one that actually has it in the SIP right now today is Arizona, and Maricopa County and Pima County in Arizona. These are the 3 Clean Air Act delegated agencies in the state of Arizona. And so we finally became an EPA broadly applicable standard in 2012. So 10 years took. From the point when I said I'm going to get this thing done, the broadly applicable standard was a decade. I couldn't believe it took that long, but let me tell you, I worked my ass out, dude. It was not for lack of trying, I'll tell you, but there's a lot of bureaucracy involved in this. There's a lot of it. So then we needed to be able to do fugitive dust, because in Arizona, dust is the issue, and Arizona being my hometown and my home state, I want to make sure DQ was the lead agency. And dust was the only thing they cared about. We kill 10 people a year on Interstate 10 dust-related crashes. Stationary sources are not a problem. There's something. Dust is an issue. So we went out and we did this big fugitive dust study, and you can see some pictures of that later on as well. And proved that we could do this not only for dust in the clouds, but in transit dust. And we could see dust moving in and moving out to the places where like loaders moving in and out and dumping buckets and stuff. So we created some protocols for monitoring fugitive dust that had never been done before. And as a result of that, a lot of those are still being promulgated, and one of them's out in public comment right now from the EPA, Office of, what does it say? OAQPS, whatever that stands for. Office of Air Quality Planning and Support or something like that. But anyway, they're the guys that put together these things and manage the standards. And so my question that's out there right now is, do we measure when we're walking, looking at fugitive dust, do we measure it at one point and let it travel, let the cloud travel out of the point of measure, or do we follow the cloud? And, nobody, that's not codified anywhere in the 40 CFR. Nor is it in any state's information that I can find as of yet. But we did put out a draft rule in Arizona, and we're following the cloud. So that was kind of the way that worked out. Then a couple of things really started to take off. And in 2013, we got rid of that 7-foot limit with the 301 standard. And the EPA published an opinion letter that because the Clean Air Act allows any credible evidence, therefore this product is considered credible evidence and can be used for any type of litigation support regarding the passage. So, of the 78 cases that have been involved in enforcement actions using these cameras for enforcement, not a single one of them has gone to court. What has happened is, when the judge says that the pictures are going to get allowed, and they're going to get shown to the jury, we're going to settlement conference within 10 minutes. All of them have been done. Nobody wants those pictures done. So it shows you that the power of this from the evidential perspective is very, very real. Right? I mean, it's one thing to have a piece of paper with a bunch of numbers written on it. Yeah, the guy was a certified guy, and blah, blah, blah. But there's no tangibility. Right? And all of a sudden you can see a picture associated with that, and not only can you see a picture, but you can see where exactly in the picture, marked by 2 boxes, was this will pass in the determined, which is unheard of in the design world. So if you want to argue it was in the water, you can argue it's in the water, and it either was or it wasn't, and you'll see how we determine that later on. So that kind of opened up a whole Pandora's box, a bunch of litigation stuff that we got involved in. And then we became a mandated aspect of a thing called the Faroe Island e-shop. And the only time in history that they mandated the product by name to the EPA. And if they had not a name to docs, they would have just said the digital passive compliance system that would have helped, but they didn't. They said DOCS-2, and that was a bad idea. So as a result, that got litigated and we lost because they said they can't do it, and so they can't call out a particular product, they got to call out a standard, and because of that thing, they allow them to you can either use it or you don't have to use it. Both of them used it. They're also my worst customers now because they got mandated to do it. But now here we are, 4 years later, and they love it. You couldn't take it away from them with a crowbar. But those first 2 years were rough. I'll tell you what. They were anything they could find to say this isn't working, or they could throw it out. They were all about it. But we've been in there and we've been doing it. Then we started into this. So as a result of that Faroe Island, I got a question. As a result of the Faroe Island thing, we became the best available control technology for passing. But because we're not in Appendix A, you can't really be designated as back unless you're in Appendix A. So then I put this big petition to the EPA, by golly, we got to redo Appendix A, and they said, we'll redo Appendix A, everything except for method 9. And I said, why is that? And he said, because there is so much litigation that's been tied up in method 9, changing it's not an option. If we open up method 9 for comment, we'll be here for the next 10 years. So I've been arguing with them about that, but we're getting close. And looks like that's probably going to get opened up in probably this year. The Lilly began the development on Flare Watch and the heavy-duty diesel inspection and maintenance thing, which essentially allows us now to establish cameras with fixed backgrounds and then watch through those cameras, whether it's a flare that we're watching or whether it's a heavy-duty diesel truck running down the freeway that we're watching coming towards us and going away from us. we can determine whether there is opacity emitting from that source. I can't quantify it as it's 10% or 20%, but what I can say is that flare is smoking, turn on the record. And now it'll record for 6 minutes or however long it tells it to record, cut that clip, and then send it in for analysis. Now you'll get a hard opacity number on it. So what we're doing is essentially a method 22 is there smoke or not smoke. When we're looking at the fixed backgrounds, when we know that there is smoke, then we turn off the camera to record a 6-minute observation. So that we can determine what the opacity is at the legal 6-minute 24 requirement. So that's how we do flare watch. That's also how we do the heavy duty diesel is only, doesn't have a method 9 requirement at all. All they're trying to do there is they're trying to identify trucks that are smoking on it. And in California, and soon to be in Texas and in Florida, they have 0 limits on heavy duty